Okay, are we ready for a very exciting conversation? So we are going to get going. We are expecting maybe a couple of people to join in, but this is a really fun conversation, so I don't want to cut it short by waiting for people that are really much enjoying the Prosecco and donuts and ice cream. I don't want to pull them away from that. But yes, thank you so much for joining us for the second of our customer sessions. I'm really looking forward to this conversation because it really is just highlighting what you can do kind of yourselves with Content Square and how to really empower your teams, ensure you're as data-driven as possible without our input, but then also highlighting how we can help support you as well should you need it. So we have Slido as well. We are going to be doing a Q&A at the end, should we have time. So it's exactly the same Slido as previous, so if you're already logged in, just open it again, but then make sure you choose the Tron room, because that is the room that we are in right now. I'll also be monitoring that. If you have any other questions for Content Square, for myself, then I will be answering in Slido as we go. So yeah, I'm not going to hold up any more of your time. I'm going to welcome our esteemed panel to the stage because like I said, we really do have the best of the best showing off how they build their digital teams, and leading this conversation is our principal customer success manager, Morgan. So we are going to welcome you to the stage and then they will introduce themselves as we go. So please, a round of applause for our panel.
I knew we couldn't compete with donuts. Is this thing working? All good? Wonderful. Thank you for the intro. I want to welcome our beautiful, incredible panelists today. I'll let you give your full introductions yourselves, obviously, but welcome Ollie, Lou, and Jonathan from our very own Content Square. What would be really, really good for us is if you could just introduce yourselves, kind of your background at your relevant companies, and specifically what your roles do for kind of Content Square adoption and how you tackle that.
Thanks. Hi everyone, so yeah, I'm Ollie. I work at NatWest Group, so that encompasses all of the banks under the NatWest Group umbrella. My title is Digital Experience Manager, but I sit in the Internal Optimization Centre of Excellence. We're like an internal agency within the bank. We partner with all the product teams to basically provide them optimization experience and support. And as part of my remit, I'm also the internal Content Square cheerleader. So I'm basically going around telling everyone how great Content Square is and to use it, and helping them get set up and using it going forward as well. So that's me.
So I'm Louise. I'm the Senior E-commerce Manager for Wolverine. For those not familiar with Wolverine, I forgive you. So we are a global company with a wide portfolio of brands, predominantly footwear, but we have also brands that I'm sure you've heard of, like Sweaty Betty. So where I fall into that, so I'm responsible for the websites of two of those brands. The first, Saucony, predominantly a running brand, best running shoes you'll own, so get some. And second, Merrell, predominantly an outdoor activity brand as well, so great for hiking and walking. How our sort of Content Square usage falls into that, so my team in Europe are the predominant users of that, but then also our counterparts and our partners in the global team, so US and Canada, are also using it to drive their businesses as well.
Cool, and then lastly, I'm Jonathan Morell. I head up the Adoption Consulting Services team across EMEA. So this is a new team of product experts who also have a specialty in enablement and training. So the team really are experts in helping you, our lovely customers, get the most usage and adoption from Content Square.
Amazing. Welcome. We talk a lot about kind of developing a data-driven mindset within the organization is obviously a very big part of adoption. Something I discovered when getting to know both of you is, well, obviously the bandwidth that you've been given to make Content Square and other software in your company really successful. I think you even said that it's part of your KPIs. You have Content Square adoption metrics in your KPIs, in your personal KPIs,
It's in my goals.
which is just brilliant, right? A really nice indication of leadership prioritizing this effort as well, and like giving you the space to work like this. Do you have maybe a couple of tips for the people in the room about the kinds of tactics and guardrails you have in place and just how you promote that data-driven mindset?
Yeah, so I think at the bank, ever since I've been there, the data-driven mindset and being data-led is something that's always been the case, really. It's cascaded down from the top. Where our team sits in is we are kind of like a juncture. So we are the gatekeepers of A/B testing. So any significant change that is done across the site will come via us, and we will scrutinise the form that is completed, for example, to see if an idea has come from the germ of an idea of like a data point, right? If there's no data-backed concept behind the insight, then we won't test. We'll go back to them and say, great, that's probably a good idea, but if you need to go back and prove that it is with some data, then we can actually go somewhere with this. So not that we are blockers to change, but we are there to make sure that the change is actually coming from a good place and it's been backed by data. So that's kind of how our team does that, I'd say.
I think where our setup differs from that slightly, so it's less about getting more and more people to use the tool, it's about making sure that our team are using it to its fullest. So my team is set up in a way that we've had them in brand pods. So we have a Merrill pod and a Saucony pod, but then how we, I guess, make that usage further is we'll share that data with our partners and our counterparts around the business and our stakeholders, but then we'll also use it in moments with, say, senior leadership team where, maybe we need something signed off, budget approved, and we found that the Content Square data has been great for sort of bolstering our business cases in those occasions.
And a huge part of your role is dealing with a very wide range of users. That's in numbers, but also in digital literacy, right? The levels at which they come to you, how much they understand about data, how much will they actually use it in their role, which is a whole different problem. So how do you approach pushback or arguments like, I don't know where to start? Like Content Square is growing a lot, there are a lot of places to look. Like how do you tackle that?
Yeah, I think it's the biggest sort of blocker for using Content Square at the bank, I would say. So I remember when I joined, I'd use more rudimentary analytics tools before I joined, and then I was suddenly given Content Square, and I thought, wow, you can do so much with this without blowing smoke up, Like, what you can uncover is just incredible, and it was a bit overwhelming, to be totally honest, and I think a lot of people find that way. I mean, I come from an analytics background, and I found it a bit much. So we're talking about traditional product teams who aren't so digitally literate, for example. With them, I would say, we've set up a situation where we send a welcome email and we say, look, this is Content Square, this is what's about a high level. This is what to do first. Do your basic training at the start to get an idea of what the tool's about, and then just get in there and start using it. Content Square University is excellent, but also it is a bit too much for someone who's brand new to the tool. So I always say, get in there, start playing around with it and see what you can learn. Start off with basic insights and just go from there. And then it's intuitive, right? You'll get used to it, and you'll learn that you can answer almost any question you really want to if you know how to do it, but it can be done within there. So it's all about, getting up there, using it as ever, really. So, yeah.
Yeah, really similar principles. I think what we try and live by or work by is not getting too hung up about finding something groundbreaking in there. Like, not every insight and everything you find needs to be a 4 million opportunity. So sort of just get in there. And the great thing about our team setup, where we have a Saucony brand pod and a Merrill brand pod, if someone finds something on one side, we often translate that to the other and inspire the other brand. And I guess how that might translate into your business is the Content Square community, there are tons of use cases and examples of how other businesses have used the tool. So I'd recommend getting in there, reading a few of those examples, and you can just see if those same principles apply to your business as well. I think that's a really great place to start if you're finding the tool quite overwhelming.
Yeah, and I don't know where to start is one of the most common pushbacks we hear when we're doing trainings with our customers, because there is so much data. One of the great initiatives that has been delivered by our education team recently is a feature that lives within the university called Use Case Explorer. Now, this kind of does what it says on the tin. It has all of our common use cases and less common use cases combined across all our different product lines. So you can go in, you can filter, you can search for what you're trying to achieve with Content Square, and there will likely be a little pod in there of exactly what you want to do. And it will give you some inspiration, it will give you some step-by-step guides, some help center articles. And this is a great way for people who are new to the platform to really get in and understand, actually, for their specific usage and for their specific job function, this is how I should be using this vast data set. So for me, that's a great place to get people to go and start, because you need to really drill in on a use case to get the most out of all of the features.
Yeah, and one of the main questions we get as CSMs is how are others doing it? Like, we only know what we know, or we don't know what we don't know. So a really good place to see how the competition or another customer might be getting some progress. I love what you say about not making it groundbreaking. It's so important to also not get hung up on the pure value of an insight. Like, I've seen examples of customers or users getting disheartened because they spent a lot of time on analysis, and then they found that it was a £100 opportunity, or was actually a negative opportunity. That's not a waste of time. That's some time you've wasted your development team and your product team on something that they didn't need to go and change or go and invest, that they might have otherwise spent time on. So that's also like an important argument to make, that the value of a user session on Content Square isn't how much money came out of it. It's how much analysis you did and how meaningful it was and what happened in the real world, acting on it too. Something that you both have in common, although your companies are completely different in many, many ways, both industry, size, and a few other things, is that you work for very kind of complex, distributed organizations. I've very strangely made it my specialty at Content Square, and even before, to only work with large distributed accounts. I didn't choose this, it just happened to me. But I remember looking back at my maybe naive preconception of what a large company should be like. And in my head it meant, we talked about this too, you had this when you first joined NatWest, right? In my head it meant structured, organized, streamlined, efficiencies, scale. All these things might be true sometimes, but they rarely are. And what you end up actually having is, the larger the organization is, the more buckets create, the more silos get formed, the more information loses itself along the way, the more duplication of effort you have, inefficiencies you have, because people are doing the same thing in two different parts of the business and not talking to each other. We joked the other day about how sometimes we bring people together in meetings and that's the very first time they meet each other from within an organization, when really those synergies should naturally exist. So CS is a really, really, really nice way to bring people together around the table, have a conversation, just share those ideas and get them to work together, right? It's a time saver, it's really good for team building, and our roundtables are incredibly successful. So you both have these challenges in your own ways. Like, what do you do to bust those silos and bring people together?
So, yeah, I think there's a few ways where you do this, but the ones to call out really are, where we sit in the optimization team, our team is specifically conversion rate optimization, experimentation. So we get a lot of A/B tests through the door across all the product streams. And every month we'll have a monthly experimentation insights forum where we invite everyone, like Panbank, across all the products areas, welcome to come along and look at what we've learned. So it's the point, as you said, it's about like sharing the insights. We don't like to use negative phraseology in terms of A/B testing. There are no losers, because you never lose as long as you're learning something from an A/B test, right? So making sure that we're sharing those learnings with as wide a basis of audience as possible across the banks is a key way of bringing people together. Of course, like Content Square is a large part of the analysis we do, so that's how that sort of fits in terms of there. And then another way we do it as well is we've shamelessly stolen the title of the Content Square community and created our own Content Square community, which is effectively just a Teams channel, because we don't use Slack because we're not cool enough for that. But we basically have an internal channel based on usership of the tool within the bank, so we see who's an active user within the last 6 months, and then everyone gets invited to it. We've got a good few hundred people in there, and it's basically a way for us to share the insights, that we want to share with them, and we keep it a regular drumbeat. Make sure that we're talking about Content Square regularly, because it's about keeping it salient for the users too, and so that reminds them, oh yeah, I should be using Content Square, and that's how we help do that and build a community. So yeah.
Don't worry, no one's going to give you a steak for stealing the community. It's a brilliant, it's a brilliant idea to use your existing tech stack, having a Teams channel in there, also using the Teams Kanban boards to kind of track progress and optimization. It's such a nice resource that you have, so awesome.
Yeah, we're very similar. So we have weekly, monthly, quarterly catch-up across our global teams. And they're not necessarily Content Square catch-ups, but Content Square data is used throughout those. Similar teams, I've got more Teams chats than I know what to do with, but they are incredibly valuable. So particularly with our partners who aren't on the same time zone, so we'll share things within that chat. We're not necessarily having conversations, it's more just sharing it, and we'll take it away if it's relevant with our regions and seeing if that's something we can do with it. We found that's very valuable. The other slight difference as well, so our customer success manager for Content Square, we have a joint Trello board with them, and Jackie, she's great at tagging us in use cases that she thinks are helpful for us. So that's something we can go in with, and it hasn't required a Zoom call or a phone call or anything like that, and we're just communicating via the board in the time that works for us. So we found that's really good as well. And we also record what we do in Content Square on there, so we've got a record of changes we've made.
That's amazing. And yeah, don't be afraid to bring in your customer success manager into the mix. When you build your strat plan, it helps us understand what your use cases are, what you need to focus on, so we can inform you and provide you with the right information. So I love hearing that story come to life, and I can see Jackie smiling at you over there. So shout out. You both do obviously a lot within your orgs to drive adoption, drive those successes. We've talked about it a little bit. A couple of things we haven't really talked about is like at the just brilliant creative initiatives you've done, both of you, that we discussed separately before. So Lou, can you talk to us a little bit about your hackathon approach? Because I thought that was so cool.
Absolutely. So as my team will confirm, I love organised fun. So so the hackathons fall into that very nicely, and I genuinely, it is fun, but it's so valuable. So we've done it a few ways. We've done it both partnering with Content Square and independently as well. So we'll carve out a day in the future, whether it's a day, an afternoon. The whole team gets together, and the idea of it is to find as many opportunities as possible in that afternoon or day. We've done it before where we've gone off in teams and we're up against each other to find the best insights, the most insights. We'll have incentives, we might have a bit of a social at the end, but it really is, we make a day of it, and we're yet to have one that we haven't left and had a whole list of actions. So whether that be things that we'll just do because they're no-brainers, bugs to fix, things to test, things that we want to look into a little bit more in the Content Square platform that maybe we didn't have time for on the day, but they are so valuable, and I really recommend it.
Amazing. And Ollie, you run brilliant workshops, and not just workshops, they are a lot more than that. But do you want to share a little bit about what they look like in the different structures?
Yeah, I think there's sort of two types we do. One was similar to what Lou said as well. We have like an in-person one. We actually did this a couple of months ago with support from RCS M as well. And the idea was that we wanted to pitch it to a broad group of people who we know don't really use the tool much or are new to it. So we had about 50 in the room, and I said on the day, I was like, I barely know anyone here, which was great, because that's the whole point. It's outreach. It's about building a buzz about the tool. And the activities were a bit more high level. We had like a bingo game, which was like, you know, who can get this analysis done quickest, who did the best analysis, and there was a prize to be won. The gamification was a really good way of making it a fun day. In fact, I think I did it in the morning. So that's the one way of engaging people with the tool. And then the second one's a bit more tangible output, right? So we would gather people around a business problem. So say we'll take the mortgage existing customer team, and we know that their hub page is underperforming for whatever metric it is they want to do. What we do is then get everyone, all the key stakeholders, maybe like 6, 7 people gathered around on a Zoom call or whatever, and we'll go through literally in 3 hours and we'll bash out some Content Square analysis together. And then off the back of that, we've got loads of ideas going into the backlog. The key from that is the fact that people bought into it because it tackles a business problem they care about. They've got skin in the game. It's not just, you know, analysis for the sake of learning how to do it, right? It's actually something at the end of it they can take back to the team and say, this is a problem we need to tackle, this is what we do with it now. And then the key part is following up on this. So quite often you'll do a workshop and then there's output. It's, oh, this is really interesting. This is, you know, we've got some learnings here, and then nothing happens with it, right? You've got to use that momentum and then actually stick it in the backlog and make sure that tests are actually happening off the back of it too. So that's the key part. It's a very tangible workshop for a very specific problem, but like that is probably the most powerful type of workshop we do, I think. More targeted use cases, but yeah.
And very much in line with our ethos when it comes to kind of onboarding, use case specific training, very targeted, tailored training, not just throw them at a problem that is irrelevant to them and then they won't know what to do with it or not really care, and so the effort is a little bit wasted. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the services packages that we have and how we approach onboarding through that lens?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so we have a few different options. I'll start with the first because it's quite similar to the themes that you've just heard from Lou and Ollie. We call it a use case enablement workshop. So you can see how similar it is. But we'll start with a business initiative or a business problem. And the trainer will talk the team through the methodology and give space for the team to actually go and explore that within the platform. So this is really the key way that we drive value through enablement, because it's actually relevant for the teams involved, and it also helps break silos, because we can make sure that the different teams and the different departments who might have similar use cases can get together and actually sit in the same room and at the end of the day come back together. So we build our onboarding and enablement packages all around these kinds of workshops and around this flow. Everything that we will do in our onboarding is use case driven. So the onboarding packs themselves, they will be a combination of those use case workshops, of what you'll find on the CS University and other resources that we have, maybe webinars, maybe articles, and each one of them will empower the teams that are getting the training to use Content Square in practice. The other service that I really want to mention is Train the Trainer. So we've got 2 extremely talented champions on the stage with us. Hopefully, I really hope that you have someone like this in your business. But but maybe you don't, and that's okay. Everyone's on a journey. But we have a service that will does what it says on the tin. I've already said the name, Train the Trainer. It will allow you or whoever you want to put through this program to get the knowledge that they need to empower the rest of the team on Content Square. So again, it's teaching all about how to train other users on use case methodologies, how to most efficiently run workshops, and ultimately empower you to really fulfill that role of being a platform trainer.
And you've both touched on a very important topic, which is the follow-up, right? Like these webinars, these workshops, these hackathons you run, they're really good team-building exercises. They bring the group together. You get to share ideas, get like that dynamic flow going. But if you don't do anything with all those insights, then you lose half the value of the workshop, right? It's just a really great team-building experience. But it would be such a waste to not do anything with the sometimes hundreds of things that you find that day. So I think that's a really important thing to take away as well, like giving someone the ownership to kind of follow up on those items, making sure that this isn't just a really exciting day, and then on Thursday you go back into the office, business as usual kicks in, and all these amazing opportunities don't get acted on, which is obviously really important, and you both have really robust ways of doing this. Onboarding comes in at a lot of different stages. It's not just when you first sign with Content Square. It could be a new team that you're onboarding. It could be a new country that you're onboarding, a new brand that you're onboarding. But what do we need from clients to kind of make this successful, to make sure that we don't waste any effort, that they get exactly what they need out of it? Like, what's the secret recipe?
That's a really good question.
Thank you.
And the success of a program really comes down to the scoping. And the level of effort that we put in really revolves around corporate objectives, business objectives, and drilling down from that to look at the use cases in Content Square to really support on that. So we'll use those objectives alongside things like your company structure, alongside your tech stack, the product lines that you may have purchased from Content Square, and those things all combined are what we will use to create a tailored enablement plan. So it will be tailored for every individual team, company, user, if that's what it comes to make sure that it really is the most relevant and valuable plan that we can have as a shared objective.
So if you've got a CSM badgering you and hounding you about a strat plan, it's not just because we're being nosy, it's because, among many other things, it really matters to how tailored, targeted, and kind of focused we can be on what you actually need. So thank you for that. Your websites do a lot more than just the products that you sell. So you have also spent your CS time and attention on those kind of key areas of the platform. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about the Merrill Hiking Club?
I would love to. So the Merrill Hiking Club came from the idea, so the Merrill brand at the heart of it is to champion getting as many people outside and feeling the benefits of the outdoors. So we know there are tons of blockers and barriers that stop people getting outdoors, in particular women. So this group, the Merrill Hike Club, is tailored and targeted at women. It's a space where we organise hikes across Europe. And the group get together and they experience those hikes together. The great thing about this, it's now become a real community. So those people women who have met each other in that group, they're now organising their own hikes together, which is really nice. How that's paired with Content Square, why am I talking about it? So I'm hoping, behind me is now what it looks like. So what happened over the years, where it's so popular, we've been adding hikes on our site. So there's sort of like a curated content view of hikes that we can recommend across Europe. So there's tips and tricks on there, beauty spots that they recommend you seeing on those. But we've added so many over the years that it's now like plus 40 hikes, and that meant that the UX of the page became outdated really quickly. So what you're seeing now is the new version that we've designed off the back of all the data that we saw in Content Square. It's far more user-friendly, far more easily to get through all the different hikes there are. I think if we go to, then, yeah, thank you very much. So you see that the lovely easy filters, so you click those, you can select by country. Obviously it's, not everyone has the ability to get across all these countries, so being able to cut through them and shop through them really easily. And also in terms of the hikes that you click through, we've removed sections, we've moved sections up, so it's far more engaging and it's exactly what people want to see rather than what we thought they wanted to see. So it's a really nice way that we've combined things that are both important to the brand and the Content Square usage.
And have you been on any of those exciting walks?
So we did a walk recently near King's Cross, so it was really nice, along the canal together. And then we've done ones that we've partnered with the Sweaty Betty brand, which is really nice. So it lines really nicely with the women focus of the Merrill Height Club. But there's tons coming up. You can join the Facebook group. And you can also sign up on Eventbrite to some of the ones we've got coming up as well. So I really recommend checking that out.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. And Ollie, I know that financial literacy is very much the heart of everything NatWest does. Can you run us through how you've looked at content through like a bit of a different lens?
Yeah, so we have a number of pages that are more like content pages that sit under the, what do we call them, Life Moments umbrella. There's content on there for almost anything you can imagine, like I get married, it's like a checklist of things you want to look at. Are you looking to, increase the energy efficiency of your home? Here's tips for that, and resources that are really useful. We've basically tried to create a library for a number of reasons. One of them might be SEO. A lot of it is about building long-term, relationships and brand building with customers in the long term, because we realise there's gaps out there. Like having bought a home a couple of years ago, it wasn't clear at all where you're supposed to start with any of it. And so we're trying to fill certain gaps like that so that we're being useful for people as well, and we're building relationships, we're becoming a relationship bank. And of course, we use Content Square on these pages too to try and optimize them, make sure that when people are coming in from the SERPs, whatever, they're finding the content they're expected to see. Personalizing where we can as well, and Content Square sits at the heart of that. So, and we also have, I guess, the Thrive proposition as well, which is literally focused on financial literacy for young people as well. This is we've partnered with Marcus Rashford. You've probably seen the adverts for it. So of course, we use Content Square quite heavily on those pages too.
Amazing. Just a reminder to really put content at the core of your analysis as well. It's sometimes a type of page that gets dismissed and maybe doesn't seem like mission critical, but especially with all the talks we had this morning around loyalty, it's really going to help feed into your brand story. It's why you build these pages, right? So we have some really good use cases, some really good training online as well, specifically on content analysis, and that can go anywhere from being a product description to an entire blog series, and I've seen some of my clients do really, really well with that. Actually, even the ones that made me buy my house. So we'll blame them. I want to make sure we have some time for questions as well. So just a final little question for you all. And I know everyone hates picking favorite children. But if you had to choose one part of Content Square to use for the rest of your career, it's a big one, what would it be?
It's quite an easy one for me. I would say workspaces. So I think it's such a good one. I know probably a common theme about everyone in this room that we never feel like we have enough time. So I find that one is a really good one. I can set it up, the metrics, high-level metrics that I'm interested in on a weekly basis, daily basis. I've set it up once, and I can keep coming back to it, and it's ready. If I can see something that concerns me, I can then nudge my team and get them to look into it. But it's a really great one. So I've got a few. I've got one that looks at the checkout flow. I don't know if it's cheating using this, but I also set up alerts from the workspace as well. So I really recommend workspaces.
Shortcuts are never cheating. I think actually a lot of people forget that there's a right-click functionality in Content Square that opens up Pandora's box of opportunity to take an analysis further and just make your life easier and not have to feel like you're doing 15 different steps, but rather tie it all together. So we didn't pay Lou to plug workspaces, but it's very much a part of the platform that's going to help you and work for you. So yes, of course, there is a kind of short-term pain for long-term gain. You have to go through the setup. That can be quite straightforward. You have to do it, but then it'll do the work for you. It'll keep giving back. And it's also one of the reasons we put a kind of front and center on our new navigation, just to kind of remind you of the important tools that can do work for you, and that includes alerts. So again, not cheating. Love alerts as well, or AI alerts. Ollie, who do you choose? Who? What?
I think I'm going to say zoning, but specifically CS Live,
okay.
Because the amount of times I've been on a call where we're looking at a page or whatever, and someone's like, oh, what is being clicked on this page? What was that? And I'm like, 1 second, let me whip out CS Live. And then the amount of times the senior stakeholders are like, oh, wow, Ollie, this is awesome. So I know, right? It's cool. It really, I don't know, it just answers questions so quickly. And I think it's because it's visual, it literally tells a story that 1,000 data graphs or charts, whatever, just probably wouldn't tell quite succinctly and as evocatively. I think particularly to senior management, it's just like, it's like that, they get the point straight away. So I'd say that's the most powerful tool. I know at the bank, for example, about 80% of our Content Square usage is on zonings. So I think that says an awful lot about how useful it is. And particularly, as you mentioned as well, so the right-click element. So if you want to create a goal based on who's clicked on a certain CTA, right? If you want to do that in Adobe Analytics, for example, you've got tagging resource. It's going to take a while to do. You can do it then and there in Content Square. And I just love the immediacy of it all. So, yeah.
And it's a very flexible tool in terms of the audience it targets, right? Because you can, yes, it's a really good way of bringing users who might be daunted by an entire platform and want to have just a light view of what's going on. So that's a nice kind of gateway drug, if you want to say. But also someone who's a really advanced user can start their analysis, pull it out on the fly in front of an executive in a meeting, and then take their analysis further because it's connected to the rest of the platform now as well. And you've got more and more of the platform coming into it with kind of the page metrics and our session replays embedded and everything else. So yeah, I think, who else loves zoning in here? I think it's everybody's, yeah, it's always going to be like that. If I had to pick a favorite, Shortcuts is actually one of them. It's not officially a feature, but it ties the whole thing together. But for me, it's frustration score. It just shines a lens onto the biggest frustration on your side. It helps you be laser focused on where to start. Like if you don't know where to start, look at what the most frustrated sessions look like. Look what is causing your customers frustration. Or even do something as simple as right click on the kind of like journey analysis kind of brown pedalo icon that we have. And then you'll be able to see exactly why your customers are exiting the site at that particular stage, right? So right click, understand site exits. It'll tell you what the key frustrations are. It'll tell you what traffic sources they're actually leaving from. So how much are you investing in paid media? You need to be really clever about this. If half of it's not worth it and people are bouncing, that's going to tell it to you in literally 2 clicks from the journey analysis page. So yeah, for me, that's always been my absolute favorite since it launched, and it's always the one that gets the best reaction when you first showcase it.
I think for me, this was a really difficult question. For me, I think it's session replay, particularly some of the advanced features that you can get from the DEM platform. How many people in here have had a senior leader come to them and say, I was on the website yesterday and I did this thing and then it crashed. Fix it. Yeah, it ruins your day because you've got to go and find out what the problem was. But actually, one of the features that we have in DEM is the ability to isolate specific recordings based on, we call it user identifier. It identifies users. And it'll allow you to actually see when that happens, what caused it. Will surface errors through this like JavaScript or API errors through the session replay. You can combine it with text search, with some of these other really advanced, powerful features that allow you and your devs to really quickly identify what the actual error was, and also quantify it and see whether that was one person experiencing this or whether it's something that's actually bringing the site down. So for me, I would think that would be the thing I'd rely on if I had to use only one thing in Content Square for the rest of my career.
Amazing. Obviously, if you have questions on how to use any of those tools, or you want to dive a little deeper, or even better, do a full macro to micro analysis and use the whole suite of products in the order we recommend, we have amazing resources. On our CSU, on our CS University, we also have the Use Case Explorer, so lots of plugs about this. Ask your CSMs if you don't know about them, if you want to learn more about them, just a really good place to start. 1,000 thanks. This is the official end of our questions, but I know that we have some, yeah, there we go. I was getting knowing looks from across the
And we've got loads rolling in, and I've been a bit of an idiot with my setup, so I can't share it to the main screen, so I'm going to ask them, I'm so sorry, just to make sure that we can see them. But no, there's a lot of questions coming through, so we're not going to get through them all, but please do grab, I'm going to put you on the spot, you can grab them in the networking after, and you can dig in a little bit more. But we will ask a few of these. So firstly, for Ollie at NatWest, it sounds like you have hundreds of people using Content Square. What kind of teams are using it?
So I'd say predominantly it's our traditional product teams. I mean, we call them journeys at NatWest because we break down products into the actual journeys that people take on them. Yeah, they're the ones, they're our key target audience really, because they're the ones who own the content, they own the web pages, so therefore they're the ones who we need to get it into the hands of the most. I'd say the digital specialist function that we all operate within as well are the super users, of which I am the super user, I would like to think. But yeah, so I'd say those are the two main areas. I think we've got a couple of areas we'd like to expand into. I think our analytics function use it, you know, fleetingly, not quite as much as we do, because there's other tools that they have as well traditionally. So it's kind of about, you know, proving the value to them about how to use it. And I think our marketing function as well is a bit of an area that probably could be using it more, but we are making good ground with them this year actually, as a result of one of the workshops we did actually. So yeah, it's mainly the product and journey teams, I would say.
I love that. I love that you're already seeing the positive outcomes from it as well.
I'll just say, if you're ever concerned that there's maybe a team that's underutilizing the tool, you want to understand how they can make the most of it, just talk to your CSM. We've got some really good understanding of how different personas can leverage the platform from experience, from other clients, amazing materials. We can even rope in dedicated training if it needs be. So just have a chat with them and we'll give you some pointers on how to include that particular team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So one for you, Lou. Love the Merrill Hiking Club experience. Did you measure commercial value around it at all? If so, how?
So we haven't. So the goals of the club really aren't anything to do commercially. It's sort of, I guess, attendance at the events, engagement through the the website. I'm obsessed. The landing page itself, but really none of the goals that we set for that has ever been commercial.
It's just a very positive outcome, I assume, as well, when it comes
and very
to
good lifetime value.
Yeah. So there's two questions here which I'm going to merge into one because they're quite similar. Probably for you, Jonathan. What recommendations would you make for smaller brands who may not have the same level of resource?
That's a really good question.
They've all been very good questions.
They are all very good questions. So I think the key thing is having a person who will take ownership of using Content Square and of the relationship, whether that's a power user or a champion or someone in a more senior position, actually taking the initiative to work with multiple stakeholders and teams. That is probably the most important thing, regardless of the size of your company. You know, you need someone there steering the ship, even if it's a crew of two in a rowing double, or if it's on a cruise ship, you need someone there taking charge. So I think that's, regardless of the size of the company, probably the most important thing that you can do.
Yeah.
I would just add to, I don't know if I've given the impression that I have a huge team, but I have 6, and that's 3 in each brand. So if you just split it off, that's essentially 3 people working on Content Square. So it's not huge numbers, and we're still getting like amazing value from it.
I love that, because I was going to lead into that, into the next question, because I know you've got quite a small team, which we can kind of build in all together, which is just, did you have to get buy-in from your leaders to become Content Square champions for the teams outside of your own? Because obviously it takes up a lot of your daily life, especially you, Ollie, and we see how you're kind of building up these workshops. So did you have to get buy-in, and if so, how did you do that? Or did you just kind of build the job role around Content Square?
It started, for me, it started as like a side of desk kind of thing. And then as it grew and grew, I said, well, it's taking up a lot of my time now. Let's put in my objectives and actually add some targets on the back of this as well. I think it started off a little bit, you know, you've got the CSM, work with them to evangelise the tool broadly. And then it was, you know, it just grew arms and legs, and now it's become like a large part of my job. But the value of that has been seen. So there hasn't really been an awful lot, you know, to break down. I think the business has been pretty happy for that to become a part of my job, because we're seeing the benefits of it.
You are indeed. We're seeing the benefits as well, because Ollie's sharing so much of his knowledge with us, which we adore. So again, there's 2 questions, which I'm going to loop into 2 parts, let's say. For Lou, any recommendations for everyday running shoes?
Oh, so many. Okay, so if you can wait for Tuesday, we've got a really big launch, and it's the Hurricane 24. The foam technology in that shoe is next level. If you can't wait for Tuesday, Ride 17 or Triumph 22.
And then second part of that, do you have any discount codes for us?
Funny you should ask.
Good news.
Funny you should ask, guys.
So we have. So all one word, Content Square. It's going to work on Merrill and Saucony UK sites. Full price only. We don't typically do these discounts, and I think it expires the 23rd of June, so get on there quick. I don't know if it's worth mentioning the other thing while I've got the slide up.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So a new thing for Saucony as well. We are a new partner of ours, the London 10K. So we're now the sort of lead name for that. Places have completely sold out, but if you're a runner, we do have a competition. So there is a chance to win a place as well as that new Hurricane 24. So I think we're going to share this afterwards as well.
It will be in your follow-up
but yeah,
emails.
so a few plugs for you. But yeah, Content Square, all one word. It's not case sensitive. Get yourself some great shoes.
I love that question didn't even come from anyone that knew there was a discount code coming. So thank you for that seamless plug. That was great.
I think it came from a marathon runner over there who's very giddy.
Oh, okay. Well, we should make you friends. Corin is a marathon. How many have you done now?
13.
Oh,
just
amazing.
14 marathons, you know, just 14. Adore that. Amazing. So we are at time. There are still some incredible questions coming through, but we are going to have to end there because there are margaritas flowing. The sun is shining outside for hopefully a little bit longer. So we are going to thank our incredible panel today. So please join me for a round of applause. Thank you so much. If you stay. And then if it wasn't